Where's the love? Where's the love? It's right here in the heart of the city. I'm Silas Grant, and I got my man with me, Tony Lewis Jr. What's up?
What's up, Joe?
Fresh off the plane.
Yeah, you know how that do.
This the second straight joint when you just coming back in town.
Been moving around.
Yeah. The last one you was in, I can't even remember.
New York.
New York?
Yeah, I went to VSU and then went to New York. And then that the same day.
Concord Slim, man. Yeah.
You know, I'm from Hanover, you know. That's what you know.
Get honest.
Home out of mass tradition.
Yeah.
But we went to Atlanta, you know what I'm saying? Real cool, man. Cool back and forth trip, you know what I'm saying? Got some business done. It was cool, man.
That's it.
Yep.
I was thinking about those trips that you have taken in the last couple of weeks. And I was thinking about them in the context of advocacy and how, I think people who know you from a distance, they think about the specific effort around getting your dad free, which you were successful in doing.
Yeah.
But the lens was not narrow. You've been taking on a lot of different topics, and it's been genuine. None of it's been, I'm doing all this to kind of angle to get my dad home, right? It's just in your heart to do these things. And, by the way, I got a piece of stake in the game too, because my dad is also, in the fray, so to speak, right? And so today, you and I are going to talk a bit about what advocacy truly is and what it means to be an advocate in the modern day, right?
Yeah.
And how the playbook has changed a lot and our playbooks have evolved a lot. So just talking a bit about our personal experiences, what we see from our purchase, and what people should think about that are kind of on the fence, trying to get involved. Maybe there's an issue that, is really near and dear to their heart, and they're trying to get some of the results they may have seen from you or I or other people like us that have been, able to, get some progress and some headway on specific topics, right? So to kind of start it off, I want to go back a little bit, right? You and I first got together and did work together on the March for Peace.
Yeah.
And there's some footage online of that. In fact, ironically enough, we're sitting here in Studio Movement, which is owned by Anwar Kong. Shout out to him.
Shout out to Anwar, man.
I was thinking about it, that the foundation of what we built beyond the March for Peace, it sits on his studios, because he asked us to come together and do the first version of Heart of the City.
His idea.
That was his idea.
Based on what he was seeing from us in the community, to your point, he covered the March for Peace.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Remember, he took pictures. He took some of the video.
That video online is his.
Yeah. Akon photography or AK photography or whatever. It was then. And then I remember you, man. Anwar said, man, we should do it. Come and be on it, do the show.
Yeah.
Like, for real, I'm like, yeah, bet. So shout out to him in more ways than one, for real, bro. Like, seriously. But yeah, that was 2010.
Yeah. And that what I thought about today was that those episodes that we recorded, the conversations before, during, and after, ended up being those consistent strategy sessions that we ended up having, right? So, but for him, right, I don't know if that would have sustained. Maybe it would have even way, but
possibly.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is like
that's how it happened.
That's how it happened. Yeah, for sure. Like, amongst like personal and professional stuff, the conversation, like you said, before, during, and after those shows, man, really, sort of set the stage for what would happen in the following almost decade and a half.
So let's go back to that point, right? Because we're talking about advocacy, and I want you to just lay out the backdrop of what happened that caused you to call me and say, let's do this march.
So at that particular time, we was having there's always something going on around my way, but it was two shootings that one was Lord Marley God rest his soul. He got shot on the unit block of Peachtree, and then the white guy, and God rest his soul, I look crazy but I didn't know the white guy. You know, I watched Marley grow up. You know what I'm saying? My little homie, but a white guy, he had got killed right a block away on North Capitol, Florida, and the response in the two situations was just like night and day. You know what I'm saying? It was night and day. You know, I remember the white guy with, you know, Chief Lanier, Harry Thomas, you know, who was a council member at that time. You know, ANC folk, everybody came out, you know, for the white guy who got killed. You know what I'm saying? And so that is like something that can't be tolerated in the community. When Marley joined, it was not. It was just us out there. You know what I'm saying? But also it had been shootings in the just around. You know, of course, very similar to what we seeing today. You know what I'm saying? So it was like yo, we gotta do something, bro. Like, and I thought that it was important that we do it, right? That it was something that I felt like we hadn't had that where it was young people like us, who I knew we could get people to come out, and that it would be led by us, by the community. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted other young people in the community to see us, you know, walking together, advocating for peace, but also wanted the powers to be to say that we were also advocating for resources and support so that, you know, people that were working in these communities and really at that point, right, we had sort of stepped away from, there weren't anybody, it was no longer,
it was barren.
It was barren. There was nobody really working in the community to combat some of the gun violence that we were seeing. And so I remember that distinct, like, yo, we gotta do. I remember even going to, and it's crazy because these joints ain't even around no more, but I remember going to Radio Shack and buying the bullhorn.
Yeah, that day of, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? We went to Radio Shack, you know what I'm saying? But, and it was the first time that I think, you know, I know around my way that any people had seen something like that, you know what I'm saying? Not that, I mean, we would see, you know, again, whether it's a politician or, you know, clergy, and they wouldn't come through our way, but we know, you know, they be doing stuff like that, but it was us. And even when some people was like, man, what they doing? And this, oh, that's Slug, or that's Silas, or that's, you know, they saw people that they knew doing it, you know what I mean? People was blowing the horns, and, you know, we can look back on that not only from the you know, it was a march, right? It was a march for peace, and it was important. But the relationships that was forged from that moment, you know what I mean? I think that was the first day I met Scooty, first day I met Perp.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I met him that day too. Yeah.
You know, you talk about what happened with Anwar after that. You know what I'm saying? You know, and some other folks that was there, but I'm just, you know what I mean? And with Sons of Life and, you know, all the above, bro. You know, with us, you know what I'm saying? Pause, you know what I'm saying? But like, but for real, things blossomed from that march, particularly around in the context of advocacy, right? We can trace it back to like that thing. That thing started relationships, brotherhoods that had led to so many other forms of advocacy and ultimately like really like policy and legislation and results getting to the communities that we care about the most. And for me, what I've grown into, because at that point, like at that Tony Lewis was like, all right, come on, y'all, let's bring attention. Like, let's make some noise, right? Not just for the sake of making noise, right? I think we had outcomes in mind, but the outcomes we wanted was just like, hey man, have some people working in these communities. You know what I mean? It was, to us, that was like low hanging fruit. You know what I'm saying? The ags wasn't like, oh, we need policy and legislation. I couldn't see that far at that time, but doing that and doing other things like that, like you said, like we matured. Like, oh, we need to be calling for this, for that, and holding people accountable to doing that. But it was personal, though, to sum it all up, though. My advocacy, my reaching out to you, it was personal because this was something that was happening, and I was trying to tackle something that was happening in my neighborhood to the people that I love and I care about. You know, I think that's where it started for me, right? It was personal, but eventually it would grow out to, in different forms. But yeah, it was personal. That's why I called you.
Yeah. One thing I think back to in that period was that 2009 was around the time when Twitter first took off for the masses. I mean, the early adopters had it prior to that, but 09, 2010, going into the 11, that was the period where we started seeing people really, it became a standard to have a Twitter account.
Yeah. That's when I got on.
Yeah, and like, you didn't tweet me about doing this, you called me. Yeah. Even though there was discussion on Twitter about it, you called. And that was when we still lived in a world where it was a hybrid, sort of a parallel, where we functioned in communication with each other beyond social media, but we also had the tool to be able to promote whatever we were doing on social media, right? Yeah. And I think it was interesting that when I think back to how I promoted the event and got people to come out, it was phone calls, emails, and a little bit of using Twitter. And now what I see is that a lot of people are just restricted to posting and quote tweeting and sharing stories, and we kind of lost the drive to go beyond that. And there are a lot of like keyboard warriors for different issues, right? And I found that even till today, getting in front of people, getting on the phone with people, going beyond the digital space, there's still a lot of value in that. We talked earlier about the modern playbook, but there's still some 20th century, 19th century, 18th century and back techniques that still work. Talk a bit about how social media has impacted your personal advocacy and how you've been able to balance the value of it, but not be restricted by it.
Yeah, I think it's been an incredible tool for me. But to the end, I think, to me, like utilizing that as a means to an end, that end being to get in front of people, right? To move people to a place where we can come together, not to just talk to you or engage with you there.
It's like meeting a girl in the club. You can't have the relationship in the club. You just meet her in the club. Yeah, and then you take it somewhere else. Yeah,
exactly. That's always been my strategy. I'm saying we can connect here, right? I'll meet you here, but for us to move the relationship along, or us to do anything together, we gotta engage, face to face at another time. You know what I'm saying? And I think we both utilize social media, particularly in the period that you were talking about, to bring people that would otherwise never have a view, right, or a perspective on what was going on in these certain communities, and gave them a way to help. I think so many people often want to help. You just gotta show them how, and something that's not the heavy lift. Something that can be interested in. And I prided myself on every time that we did something that it would be an experience that somebody would want to do again. And I saw so many people catch the bug from showing up to our events. Right? They caught that bug, like, man, I want to do that, or I'm going to do that in my neighborhood, or when the next time y'all doing something. Social media allowed for the people that were like, not only to bring people to certain events or certain activations, but it also allowed us to show those activations so that other people would say, oh, next time, oh, damn, he was there, oh, she was there, oh, man. It might be dudes, hey, the turkey tribe, some bad joints at that. I'm coming
it
next time.
It became that.
Yeah, it became that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it was, though. And I'm like, they stay, they come to everything. So you should pull up, bring some turkeys with you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it will be. And you get people in these spaces that they never thought that they would have a good time, or if they went before, that they would just come, drop off whatever it is, and they out the door. It's like, nah, they came and dropped off and they spent 4 hours there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that, but again, the social media piece was a way to get people, to introduce people and to, present them with an opportunity to do their part. I'm talking about in the professional space, direct service. So I never feel satisfied with just doing it there. I love to share information and, engage folk, all that. That's beautiful. But in terms of tangible outcomes that we have to convene, and I'm big on that human touch, that human interaction.
Yeah.
It's becoming like a lost art. Like people are awkward now in front of each other. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I think social media has had a lot to do with that. It's not, and I'm not demonizing it, but I think at the end of the day, to your point, it's certain things, and in this work, I feel like certain things you just can't get around, man. People gotta come together.
So what ended up happening was we did the first March for Peace in 2011. 2012.
Was it 2011 or 2010?
You know what?
Right? Or am I?
Maybe. You know what? It was 11. I'm gonna tell you why it was 11. The top of 11.
It was early 11. You
Yeah.
know. Say less.
The
Yep,
top
you
of
right.
11.
Yep.
So 12 was the second one we did, which was after the mass shooting
Oh, Tyler House.
at Tyler House
Yeah.
on M Street.
Yep.
And then from there,
Not North Capitol. Well, it's North Capitol,
Yeah.
but the front though, that
It's on North Capitol, yeah.
13 people got shot.
yeah. So that took place, which was like maybe a year and a month or so later. Then we did the screening of Do the Right Thing. So it became sort of these events that we were doing sort of like back to back to back.
Hey, let me ask you something though
Yeah.
on that. Dang, was Do the Right Thing after the second march or was it before it?
It was after. It was in April of that 2012.
And you know what? Think about this: 2012. Just for the viewers, though, I think the context of this is incredible, right? Too. We talked about like in terms of that timeline. The first one was in response to we talked about two gunshot victims, but different responses, right? 2011, right? The Truxton Circle, Atkinson, Bloomingdale neighborhood, gentrifying crazy. Just the white victim, black victim, different responses. Boom. Then we come back the second time after a mass shooting in this gentrifying community. And Noma also can't leave that out, right? It's across the street starting to, build up. And then we screen Do the Right Thing that speaks, that was 20 years prior, speaking to what we are now starting to experience full on in the District of Columbia in Brooklyn. At Turkey Thicket Recreation Center.
Which was a hotbed for gentrification at that point.
Facts.
Hotbed.
Right? I mean, I think, I want people to understand too that when we talk about advocating or advocacy, and I think a lot of times it's just like, man, Tone and Silas, man, they homies, man, they just doing something. Nah, it was very strategic what we was doing. We were speaking to something that was like really going on in community.
Yeah.
Even when other people didn't really necessarily understand fully what we was it wasn't random.
Yeah.
We were really trying to get at something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in front of something that so like we knew, we were seeing it where you come from, where I come from, in our travels. You know what I mean? I just thought, so if you advocating for something, I feel like you have to be very intentional and very strategic.
Thought-provoking
Yes.
ideas and
Yes.
executing them have to be. Yeah.
Facts.
What I was going to say was that, so all those things started happening. The events were happening. Well, now we call it podcast, but back then it was just internet radio, right?
Right.
We were doing that show every week. And the Hoodie Award happened in that whole period. Right, because what year was that? That was 2011.
That was
right?
August of 2011.
So what I remember was that with social media in that sort of bonfire and it was kicking up, right? Your profile started to really elevate, and you started to begin to speak and utilize your voice on social media to a point where you caught the attention of administrations, right, locally.
Yeah.
And they began to kind of reach out to you like, hey, can we explain what's going on before you take
Go
what
crazy.
before you go off and
Yeah.
So I'm bringing that up because a few moments earlier you talked about, we got to convene in person. Talk about what it was like when you really started building relationships with elected leaders and meeting with them in person, and how that shifted your mindset around advocacy.
Yeah, I would. Getting access, right? We started seeing people starting to take notice of like, I didn't even know that was a thing. It's crazy, and I mean, it's like, a lot of that was new to me. You know what I'm saying? I I wanted to have those conversations, but I didn't know that, like, first of all, people was paying me attention, right? I mean, I was speaking to the streets in my mind,
Yeah.
right? When I'm on Twitter or Facebook, whatever it was at that time, I was talking to us.
Yeah.
I didn't know who else was watching. I don't even know if I fully. Hey, and shout out to Patrice.
Oh yeah. Shout out to Patrice. Yeah.
Patrice was the first person. She was doing some PR help for me with the Hoodie Awards stuff, and she got me on Facebook and Twitter. And I didn't get it fully. I didn't get that. Damn, when you tweeting something, like, and yeah, I'm not an ignorant person, but I'm just saying at that time, people don't. That wasn't my world. And she was like, "You need to get on Twitter." But now I'm talking. What I'm saying, I'm talking to us. I'm tweeting like I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I'm on TV talking like it's just you and me.
I'm like it's just you and me. You feel me?
Yeah.
And but it was raw and it was authentic. And I think where I've always, even if people ain't like what I was saying, they respected it because it's never been about Tony. I never was like, hey, look at me, I'm this guy, or I'm just, I'm also not a rebel rouser. I wasn't just, talking loud or a pundit or a critic. It's like, no, I was pointing out real issues and real gaps and how it was affecting our people. So once I started getting that, people started, but simultaneously, I wasn't just talking.
You were doing too.
I was doing and had been doing, for a decade, up until that point. You feel what I'm saying? I had been doing for a decade. So that gave me credibility. And so people started to say, well, yeah, let's talk to this guy. I'm sure they asked people about me before, like, oh, no, he the real thing, or he legit, or he did this, he helped this, he worked, so he be a roving leader. He used to work at Project Empowerment. Now he works at CISO, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Once that happened, and then I think whoever it was, whether it was the chancellor, DCPS, whether it was council members, whether it was ANC for whatever, when they started talking to me and really understood that what I was sharing with them was helpful. Right? Now, once I established those relationships, to your point, to your question, it did kind of change. My social media commentary didn't change completely, but it changed a bit because I don't have to tweet it back to that face-to-face or that phone call. Now that if I can call you, why would I tweet about it? Mm-hmm. Right? If I can do something about it by calling you Mr. or Mrs. Council Member, or, Mr. or Mrs. Director, or whomever, right? That I would rather do that. You know what I'm saying? And then, or be able to even convey messaging back to the folks like, y'all, look, boom, this was happening. If you need this resource, go here. If so that it didn't allow me to be able to, I think, have more impact. You know what I'm saying? Because I never was satisfied with I wasn't, blowing up on Twitter just to, you know what I'm saying? Today's would go viral. Yeah. It never was. It really was being inspired by what I was seeing every day at work, what I was seeing every day when I walked out that door. You know what I'm saying? What was happening to my family members and my friends. Same with you, like when people dying and all that, we know these people, yeah. And especially at that time, we felt like it could have been more being done to help and support the community. So, as my advocacy took on, once I knew that, dang, okay, people are watching this, right? And it also was always a great thing. I'm like, okay, I can talk, as I used to use it to try to talk to the streets. Now I realized, dang, I can talk to them too. And then I was kind of not crazy, but I used to do, like, I would be a little more brash and, I probably, now if I look back on some of that stuff, I probably see it as being a bit, I probably could have used more tact sometime, you know what I'm saying? But also at the same time, unfortunately too, right? Sometimes if you're not assertive, then people don't see you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But also I think that comes with, and I've never been a disrespectful person. And for some of the younger advocates or activists, you know what I mean? It's like, just you can get, you're a human being, right? And a lot of this stuff make me mad. It still does, right? And all that. But it's just like, understand that, my thing has always been this about advocacy or activism. What can a person get it right? So if I advocate for something, and you the person that can get it done. So my advocacy or my activism is aimed at you, right? And it might be, it's not malice in it, hopefully, or no vitriol, but I'm saying, once you do that, once you adhere to the demands, right? Like,
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying?
I saw a video today on Instagram. There's a guy who's, I don't know if he's still a pastor, but he at least used to be a pastor. He has a podcast, and he talked about all the authors of the books of the Bible, and he talked about all their major flaws and sins, and how when we read those books in the Bible, we know in the background of our hearts that this was a flawed man who wrote this book.
Yeah.
And his story is very much highlighted throughout the Bible, right? Whoever it may be, right? David, whoever, right?
Sure.
All these characters and also authors in the Bible. And he said that we are able to give grace to a story that's 2,000 years old, but we don't know how to give grace in real time. And when I saw that today, I thought about it, and this is like sort of a confirmation of that, right? So if the mayor, whoever it is, right?
Right, sure.
If they get it right, and they turn the corner in this one area, we gotta. That's a point on the board.
I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And also, like, the expectation for me, I don't see eye to eye with my wife every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or my mother, or my father, or whoever. You know what I'm saying? We all got difference of opinions, even if it's something as simple as like what we're eating. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, people see things, but this is that one, that, but to your the social media piece, I think has gotten in the way of people being able to like see that that's a human being, man. On the other side of that, you know what I mean. That's why I feel like it can't just stay there. It has to be these interactions where you can look somebody in the eye and you can tell them, y'all can have conversation about a certain topic, which I've had the benefit of doing. It just make me see it differently. Now we might leave that conversation still feeling differently about a certain topic. And even sometimes it's an opportunity for you to tell people that, like, listen, this issue or this topic, it shows up differently in my life than yours, right? I'm uniquely positioned to have it's a different perspective I have on this. You might want to listen to me on that. And I'm saying, anybody can have that sort of position depending on what the topic is. Having and learning that, especially from you talking about elected folks, like, they work for you, right? But they also are people. Like, they are people, man. And I've always tried to keep that in front of my advocacy. I had to grow into that. But my understanding of the landscape, and I'm still learning, right?
Yeah.
But as I learn, and one of the things too for me personally is, like, I come from a world where everything's personal. And I'm not apologizing for saying that, but when I say that, I hope people understand. It's other people that come from the same world I come from. But I'm just, for context, like, I come from a world where everything's personal. I had to learn, though, that some of this stuff isn't.
Yeah, so again, your work inside the government was more from an employment perspective, right?
Correct.
I worked as a government employee, but also from a political perspective. Right. So I've seen more of that firsthand of, we going at it, but it's not personal. I just got to get this thing done. That's the goal line. You in the way. I either got to juke you or run you over.
Facts.
Right? So I've seen a little more of that, and I picked up on it as a result of those experiences. I had a guy that used to come to meetings that I would attend on behalf of the elected official that I worked for at the time, and this guy used to always make a lot of noise in the meetings, right? Just everything, like, his voice was projected at a very loud rate. It just seemed like he was angry all the time. And we got in the hallway of a meeting, and he and I were talking, and he said, man, I'm a Vietnam vet. And he showed me his hand, and he's missing like a finger. He said, I got my finger blown off, and I got a hole like right by my waist. And he was like, when I come in these meetings, me raising my voice the way I do, that's the least of my worries.
Yeah.
I've been wounded for real in life.
Yeah.
So my voice being raised a little bit, like you got to understand my threshold for animosity, my threshold for confrontation
Fact, he ain't
is
even
much.
upset.
Yeah, he ain't even upset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so had I not had that in the hallway conversation with him, and I don't know what compelled him to say that to me, because we weren't beefing, right? I just would observe how what I thought was very belligerent of him, right?
Sure.
But that interaction, when he gave me that context, it changed how I look at everybody, because now I'm looking at you like there's something else there as to why you're approaching it this way.
Yeah.
And it may not be personal.
Yeah, man.
You know?
And your ability, if you want to engage to that level, you have to understand that, right? And also, like, really, whatever it is you're pushing for, I always, encourage people to, like, keep your eye on that, right? Like, keep your eye on that. Too many of us, I think, sometimes just we want to feel seen. Nothing's wrong with that, but I'm just getting to a point. We want to feel seen. We want to feel, acknowledged. But like, you can get, if that's what you're here for, you know what I'm saying? But that's why, I feel like some issues don't get across the line, because really people be leveraging an issue to get something that they seeking, personally. You know what I'm saying?
As a former ANC commissioner, former chair of the Ward 5 Dems, all these different things that I've held titles for personally.
Pop your shit, yeah. Hey. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All these different positions, right? There is a social circuit that's like the underbelly of it too. Mm-hmm. And there are people that they come to these things and they run for these particular positions because it is a social status for them too. And so sometimes they're playing what I call the infinite game, where they're not trying to win, they're just trying to stay playing the game.
Yeah.
Because there's a value in them just playing the game.
And I know for me, that was one of the things too, I think, threw people off, because everybody was trying to, like, at that point we talking about back then, like, who is this guy? Like,
I was going to get on that next.
What is he,
That was my next place I was going to go. Because you and I started to build individually and collectively, like, this presence, right? And, I remember so many times, and I don't even have to say I remember because it still happens. Like, people will come up to me and be like, all right, which one is it going to be, you or Tony?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one of y'all going to jump y'all hat in the race?
When y'all want,
right?
Going.
They still be doing that. It's it ain't a shot in the dark now, though, right?
Ain't a chance in hell,
but it's like, I think people automatically expect that that's next.
Yeah, because it ain't no way y'all just doing this stuff just because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, for real, in people's mind. And not even that it was like, yeah, but for real, I think we really did, that was different for people. Because anything remotely close to what we were doing, because people, the question's like, well, why y'all doing all this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was happening in the process just because we gave a fuck. Like, it's because we cared. You know what I mean? That was, I think, and we were trying to raise awareness for this stuff to be addressed, for people that were in position to help to just do that.
Yeah.
It was really like that simple.
Yeah. I want to say, for the record, I'm going to look in the camera and say this. In the last 15 years plus of me being an advocate, I've never told anybody I want to run for mayor. Right? I just want to put that on record. Just so they know, right?
So they can't say they heard
but
that.
I've had people just take that and run with it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when you run. And I'm like, you never heard me say that.
You see that on you.
My wife lived with me. We 13 years married. She's never heard me say, I'm thinking about at some point in my life running for mayor. I don't know how that happened.
They see it on you, though, Joe. Sometimes, what somebody told me, though, right?
Oh, see, here you go, man.
somebody told me, man, you the creator, man, you know what I'm saying? He send his messages, man. You can't question it, man. You just, it ain't about what you want sometimes. Let's say stuff people.
The same thing,
yeah. About what you want, man. It's about sometimes you gotta do it for the people, Silas.
We've been so accustomed, though, that there's something at the end of it all, right? There's an ask at the end of it all. And that just wasn't the case with you and I, right? Obviously, I held different positions, but that wasn't the ask of why we did what we did. So my question is, like, with that, when it comes to advocacy, should everybody that is thinking about running, should they be running?
No. No, I do, but I do, and I think some people that's not running
should be running. Fair.
But I think that something that you helped me, you crystallized something for me, and I think again, hopefully we've been some of the models for the fact that, right, there is a need for people in different parts to the puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I think we've elevated the advocate or the activist piece of the puzzle, where that can be what you do and do it well and get real results by working with the people that are elected. You may not have to be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and so I remember, God bless his soul, I mean, he used to always say that sometimes our people want kings and queens when we go to vote.
Yeah.
And I look at where we stand individually now, and I can say this like with no exaggeration. I don't think there are any elected officials that know you and I that look at themselves as being above us.
Yeah.
And when we walk in their spaces, we don't look at ourselves as being beneath them.
They're our peers.
They're our peers.
Contemporaries.
Right? They just have a different role.
Different job. There you go. You go. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I think if people got that, we wouldn't see as many people that might be unfit for that particular position running for it, whether it be council, mayor, chair, congresswoman, congressman, whatever, right?
Because they run into that. Well, what's next?
Yeah, what's
type
next?
Of thing.
And those things are very, like, you have to be a legislator. That has to be something that you have an interest in.
I mean, if you don't even that, and I'm not trying to box in who we engage with, but sometimes it's like I haven't heard, I ain't say never, but I haven't heard people say, I planned on introducing bills to address this.
Yeah. It's just, I'm going to be the king or the queen of this particular jurisdiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I never hear people talk about that. Like, that is the job.
Yeah, that's the job. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, so to the other side of that, and I'm not saying that people aren't multifaceted, but if you never seen a person draft a bill, talk about creating a bill, why would you in turn be like, oh yeah, when you running?
Yeah, you never seen them take interest in that.
Right?
Yeah.
Not that you can't, again, do that, but I'm just saying, but that's not what people look for. Those aren't the things that really matter the most to the
So I worked in the council, worked specifically for Kenyon McDuffie when he was in Ward 5. Outstanding, stellar record as a legislator, right? My professional career went to a higher level having worked in that office because I was surrounded by legal minds. Most of my colleagues were lawyers or either on their way to getting their degree and passing the bar. Right. And it taught me so much about how you think, how you respond, like dotting the I's, the whole communication thing, right? And even if you are the elected person, you still have to have that mindset in order to even leverage your staff the right way.
How about that?
Right? Like,
how about that?
You have to have an understanding of it to appropriately design what the office looks like and to appropriately command these things to happen.
Particularly in 2023.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, a modern, sophisticated populace that expects that.
No question about it.
You know? And again, if you're not ready for that, this is not a plug and play. This is not...
Yeah. It's not a joke.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
It's not a joke, and I think people don't understand, like, what's at stake. I remember talking to somebody about being mayor. I mean, just not me being mayor, but what's the responsibilities of being the mayor of Washington, D.C., right? And I was asking him, like, yo, what you think the response, because it came from a situation of somebody talking about I should run for mayor.
Tell me.
What the mayor do?
Yeah, tell me, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what's your idea? What's the responsibility of the mayor? And, everything was very, I think that they were saying it was very, like, topical, general type of stuff, right? And I was like, man, but like, what about protest on the mall? What about determining when kids go back to school? This was like during COVID, like who gets vaccine stuff, or national disasters and emergency floods. You know what I'm saying? All it, these kind of things, man. Not to mention, what kind of school system or what kind of curriculum we going, what I'm saying, who you hire, all the directors, like all of these different, what I'm saying, things that person never considered. Like that stuff ain't just showing up, man. That stuff is and the same thing with the councilman, like it determining the city's budget. You know what I'm saying, or whatever the case may be. These are major decisions. Yeah, you have a staff, but ultimately, right, the buck stops with that person.
That is important, specifically around hires and manpower in terms of who's going to run different parts of the city, right?
Facts.
So one of the things that I was going to say earlier about someone who would be most likely to be, I don't want to say eligible, but a person who has a more higher probability of winning is a person that when they move, other people move.
Yeah.
And you have to have a serious conversation with yourself to say, has my track record proven that when I say something, people move? Something as simple as, man, we going over to Del Frisco's tonight.
Yeah.
And Tony said we going over there, we going over there.
Yep.
Can you move somebody simply like that?
Yep.
That we're going to a bar, restaurant, or wherever, right? That's a very simple example. But even beyond that, have you developed your network where if you were appointed to be mayor tomorrow, that you have a contact in your phone that is a transportation expert, that is an engineer expert, that is a financial expert, that you could make tops 3 calls and somebody could headhunt and find you a CFO for the city.
Yep, for the city.
Have you built relationships? I mean, again, you're passionate about things. I'm passionate. Everybody's passionate. That doesn't make you eligible.
Yeah, man.
Right? And I'm not suggesting nepotism, but there's a healthy amount of relationships you have to have where when you're putting together, a transition team, right? To staff the city, 30,000 plus employees, that at the top brass in your LinkedIn, in your cell phone, in your alumni chapters, some people that could at least be a candidate.
Yeah, man. Or at least they know somebody.
Or they know somebody,
they cool
right?
With you, they can refer somebody, or help you vet the somebody that may get referred to, whatever it may be. It's the level of sophistication that is necessary in these roles, and it's becoming even more and more. And even to hold on and protect, what's big to me is also people that's coming in the office having a connection. Like, where your base? Like, for real.
Yeah.
Like, where your base? Where do you come from?
Forget coming in the office. Like, when you decide to go sign the paperwork to run, like, where do you think, when you finish signing that, where you going to go to get the base?
Where you, that, you know what I'm saying? Where's your hub? You know what I'm saying? Because my thing asking that is this, and I'm not, whoever it may be, right? But my question is, when you're going to make these, who are you accountable to?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about when you gonna be making these important decisions, where you base these people have the power to influence things that sometimes it scares me, because it's like, do you even know? Have you ever even been through that?
Yeah, I remember. Again, God bless his soul, used to always say 2 things. He would say that everybody, or there's more likely that most people know the 13 council members, but it's not as likely as they would know the 13 committee directors, right? But then he would go to a further extent and say, it's our job, those of us that are advocates, to meet the committee directors and the legislative directors, because otherwise, when they go home for Thanksgiving break, because they're not from here a lot of times, they're not talking about these issues at their table. It's just they've left that in D.C. But when you make an impact on them, it's harder for them to leave that in D.C. They travel with that.
Facts.
And I think we need to be able to when I say we, I'm using that loosely, but all of us that are advocating for just equality, equity in the city, whatever it may be, that we do a better job of not just banging down the member's door or the mayor's door, but understanding the people that play parts.
Yeah, that are very, very heavily
in the
that
org
weigh
chart.
in on what actually happens.
Yeah.
But sharing that knowledge and people knowing that is like, I think, half the battle.
That too.
But also people, you always use the term when describing yourself as a civic activist, right? And how important it is that people become more active from a civics perspective, like going down to hearings that pertain to the issues that they care about. You know what I mean? Being able to go before committees and give their opinion and their perspective and their experiences, lend that to the decision-making process, which is something that's open for us to do. You know what I'm saying? But we don't participate in it enough. You know, I mean, a lot of times people can't. They can't make it at work, whatever the case may be. But I think more times than not, people don't do it because they're not aware that they can. You know what I mean?
Part of it. I was going to ask you also, how much of a factor does hope play in that?
Yeah, because if you never feel like the government or politics ever did nothing for you, gave you nothing, hopelessness is there. You like, that shit is a waste of time.
What was the one thing, if you could think of one thing, that turned the corner for you with that? Like, we can get this done.
Definitely the NEAR Act.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I mean, that was like a direct. That wasn't something like that you and I got called in to help assist. You know, like at the end or coming before give our perspective on something. No, I was like, we helped birth that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being advocates. It got birthed through us pushing and pushing and pushing.
It's funny. I walk in Busboys and Poets in Brooklyn, and I look at that table when I walk in there, like the very table we used to sit at,
straight up,
and talk about the NEAR Act with Kenyon, with Trayon, with Ron, with
Charlie T.
Rest in peace, Cardo. Really sitting at that table.
At that table,
I look at that table sometimes when I walk in there.
Straight up, and that turned into something that every time I think about the table. When I'm up there, you know what I'm saying? You know, if I be going Starbucks or whatever the case may be, but when I go in Juan's office.
Yeah.
I was there today. Like, I go in there, that's part of my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The thought that, like, that building, this program, everything that comes out of here started with me going on Kenyon. What the fuck is you? Man, what y'all niggas dying, man. Yeah. Like, serious, it started that. And then his ability to, like, that process inspired me on another level as well, right? To also, again, we talking about as an advocate too, like being able to be challenged yourself, right? To stretch, to grow, to rise to an occasion, to meet a different standard, right? And so, that just the process of him going around the country to different, seeing this, talking to this person, talking to the public health people, you know what I'm saying, and using what we shared and what we, you know what I mean? That inspired me as well. Like, because none of us have all the answers, right? None of us have all the answers, and that process also helped me understand that, right? That this thing, there's other components that I didn't even hadn't even considered. But when it all came together, it created something that we know has saved lives in the city and continue to.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? And then that also, when you talk about going and speaking before the labor committee about the importance of project empowerment and its necessity to continue to be funded. When the funding for project empowerment, it came to a point where they were talking about withholding funding and going down and testifying before the labor committee about why that was the worst thing in the world that we could do, and they didn't defund it. Not just my testimony, but being a part of, things like that, where you start to say, like, damn, like, okay, our voices can matter.
Yeah.
It's particularly when enough of us speak in one voice, right? And are saying the same things, and going on, obviously to, it's just so many things, but don't mute DC stuff and getting the go-go
DCPS and identifying the children of incarcerated parents.
and really that situation with getting them to ask and mind for if your child having an incarcerated parent, getting that added to the enrollment form from a social emotional learning perspective. I really feel like that was some at that point it was periods within it I never felt so disrespected in my life. But again, I kept going though. I ain't stopped. I ain't let the disrespect make me quit. I had people like cancel meetings like literally at the time I'm there. Like, oh, he canceled or she canceled, or they send you to a gatekeeper who show don't even know who you are, acting as if you like you spoke about like beneath them. And you see, but helping young people in the city and really trying to raise the voices of young people with incarcerated parents all around the country made me endure that. And as an advocate, sometimes you gotta
because you knew. So I'm reading this book right now by Rick Rubin, producer. It's called The Creative Act, and he said when you're getting feedback from people, it shouldn't question your work. It should make you learn that person more.
Yeah, by way to get what you.
So I know what my work is, right? Yep. I'm letting you view it, but your feedback on my work is not an indictment of my work. It's just me getting to know who you are,
where you at,
and how you look at the world.
Yep.
So when you were in there advocating, knowing that it was important to identify them, even when they canceled the meetings, you just kept going.
Yeah, like and telling me where the data to support that. Like I am the data.
Yeah.
But then Child Trends come out with a big study. Then Ann Casey come out with a big study. And I'm like, back in the meeting again with the same person. Like, hello.
Yeah.
Did you read that? Did you see that? That's the same thing I was telling you 6 months ago. You see, you got a whole report on that.
But you had to be. That had to be on your radar too.
Yeah.
So there was a level of sophistication that you had to have.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, the one thing about you gotta know your shit.
Yep.
But you also have to put yourself in a position of, like you said, that other person, right? And why they may not understand or see, you also gotta see what they saying. In this particular situation, it was like I didn't work in education. Who was I to be telling them what they should be doing?
Yeah.
Right? But it also is because I didn't come referred by nobody that they knew or respected or whatever the case may be. I also wasn't representing no organization. I'm representing us. But they can't see that at that time, right? It's like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? But they couldn't get around that. Regardless of any of that, what I was bringing before you was the reality. You know what I'm saying? And I was asking things like, in a city where you may not have the data on, y'all obviously don't have the data on how many, y'all not collecting the data on how many children have an incarcerated parent. But what we do know, that DC ranked in the top 3 in terms of being the city that has the highest incarceration rate.
So they got to have kids.
We know 50% of people, 50, 60% of people that go to prison have children under 10.
So they in school.
So when I'm coming to them from that perspective, it's nothing you can. So like, you should be ashamed that you're not capturing that data. Yeah. I'm not telling you to do nothing for me. I don't have no program in my pocket to say, oh, well, you should hire me. No, all I'm saying is start to try to identify these folks for the sake of providing them with resources and supports, not taking them out of class and put them in those special groups. No, and once we were able to do that, they told me that 100% of the parents that self-identified, right? That's another thing. If people don't want people to know, fine. But give them the option. And they said 100% of the people that checked, said, yes, my kid got an incarcerated parent, also checked, was another question. If so, would you like any additional supports? They said, hell yes. Yes. And that's all I was trying to do from the beginning. Again, but I always try to give people grace, because I know in most cases somebody always got something. There's always some scam, some move, I'm the only person in the world that can help you if you need to give me $2 million to do, you know. And maybe I should do that more, because sometimes it should be true with me. But but that's not who I am. You feel what I'm saying? And it's always like, and I'm still trying to build with DCPS, shout out to them. Shout out to the great all the educators and what they do in the city. They got some of to me, the toughest jobs in the world. And the most that's a sacred profession in my opinion. Education. You know what I'm saying? It's so important. But I'm really trying to engage DCPS from standpoint, excuse me, with the Slug Literary Program. And really, and we've done it by class and throughout most schools, but I'm talking about something that's like mandatory in the curriculum. Pardon me. So that advocacy, that was an experience. But when you believe in something, don't quit. Yeah. Keep going and bring to the table stuff that make them they got to see you.
And you kept logs in the fire too, because again, what I said very early in this conversation was that you had your hand in so many different areas that were the side dishes to the entree of basically family reunification, right?
Facts.
And stability, right? Stabilization of families, right? All the things you were doing, the turkey drives, the book bag drives, getting the forms changed in DCPS, right? The NEAR Act, DC Natives Day, go-go legislation, all these things you kind of had your hand in some way or another, right? And I think what we aim to do with this platform is when we have discussions to make it a master class so that people can walk away with some things that they need to think about. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've always known about what we've done is that we've always had logs in different fires. Yeah, so when one door closes, it oftentimes reopens because the person behind the door takes a look on Google and like, oh, wait a minute. Dang. He's doing like 4 or 5 other things. So like
he did that. He did that. Or when they're in meetings with their friends and maybe your issue or your name come up, right? They're like, what? Oh, I just met that guy. He was just like, oh yeah, you don't know he did this, or you don't know, he really be helping people. He came, he helped me out once, that kind of stuff. That was helpful. And, also though, I think, having, people like you and others, you know what I'm saying, to bounce things off of or to just watch. And oh dang, okay. We've talked about this on this platform before though, but I have to reiterate that that ain't hyperbole or I'm just saying it sounds sweet. I really mean that. Like we all have weak spots, right? So you gotta have friends that's strong when you weak, and not only to have them like do the things that you can't do, but learn from them. You know what I'm saying? Like model them and say, oh, okay, let me try to do this. And as an advocate, as you mentioned, being able to be well positioned in your issue, like really know your stuff. Really know your stuff, like really, really know it, right? And have the ability to meet somebody that don't agree with you, right? Be able to explain your position in a way in which they might say, well, I see that. I see where you're coming. Even if they don't necessarily believe, but they're like, it makes them think, right? But those are the things that are key. Just, you wrong. Y'all hate us. And some of that may be true, but that ain't gonna get us but so far. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying?
And knowing your stuff is important, but also knowing the landscape, being able to walk in rooms and understand where that person's position is on this particular issue. Yeah. And how can I finesse, maneuver to get people, how can I influence people to move in a way that I need them to move on this thing.
And Twitter, I think, social media, I think, helped me be able to talk to other people's base.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so, say if somebody don't see eye to eye with me or don't like me, whatever the case, how in the world when you like me? But if that was the case, right, and they talking to their friends, and one of their friends might say, well, I saw what he was saying. I ain't take it that way.
Yeah.
I think he right. I mean, look what he's saying, right? And so now, within their inner circle, they're now having some dialogue that may encourage them to look at it different. Because maybe just because they don't like me, it's creating an inability for them to see. You know what I'm saying? They biased against. I'm not even saying nothing wrong. you know what I'm saying, their friend might say, yeah, you sure? Like,
Yeah.
take a look. And I know that has happened.
Yeah.
With me
And it
before.
comes sometimes from the most unorthodox sources.
Yeah.
All politics are local. And so we like to dress up the political arena, church basement, city hall, those things. But a lot of the resolutions come in the community.
Yeah.
I found that me just being visible, walking or biking, or just walking around and just being visible, I've been able to have conversations with people that we couldn't have in the official meeting, and we got things squared away,
Yeah.
right? I've had disagreements with people over issues, and the most, again, unorthodox people have been able to bring me together with other people
Yeah.
to be able to like resolve issues, right? And I think we just cannot, we can't imprison ourselves to just having the conversation when the gavel's being banged and like in between the opening gavel and the closing gavel, right?
Right.
It's gotta continue.
Yeah.
We live among each other. We see each other at the grocery store. Our kids play at the same playgrounds. And I think those are I call them opportunity grounds.
Yeah, man.
To build relationships.
That human stuff.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah.
And that's why I take so much value. Like, everybody was asking me, like, man, why you be over you and your market so much, man? You still, like, yeah, because people there.
People there.
I sit over there, I might see, 20 people that I know, or, you know what I'm saying, or 20 different conversations about a bevy of things, man, important related, get introduced to new people, like all that, because life is there. You know what I'm saying? And I gotta be where people are.
Sonny from the Bronx, proximity.
Yeah, proximity, man.
Yeah.
Proximity is everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like as I've grown a tremendous amount, man. Again, though even deep in the work, doing the work, right? But I'm not. I wasn't. If I don't know you, I ain't really talk too much to you. I'm friendly to a degree. Like, what's up? How you doing? But I ain't really. And then also it took me a long time to build relationships, especially with dudes that if you ain't come from my aesthetic.
So I got this joke with Eric.
Yeah.
I used to tell him all the time, man, you keep your Uptown jacket on.
Yeah.
You zip that joint all the way up. And then he started like, all right, they not like me. I can talk to them a little bit more, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I saw that with you as well. You had to unzip the Hanover jacket a little bit.
No question, man. It's important because it's like, especially as, because at the end of the day, if not, I wouldn't be talking to a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
As you get in these different worlds, different rooms, and people are coming from different worlds than you have to, become open if you want to get things done. Right. And that's the key. Another key to advocacy is being able to get people that aren't from your demographic or culture to support what you doing.
Yeah.
Right? That's when it's a game changer.
Yeah.
If you can start to get other people to say, you know what, I agree with that. Yeah. How can I help you? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how. It ain't, even with the Free Tony Lewis, man, we talk about that, right? That you think it was just people from around my way, people in my family around my way? You think that would have, nah. You know what I mean? That built out.
Yeah. And I said this to you before. I think the only thing that changed in that story was you.
Yeah.
You grew. The story had everything it needed. It had all the ingredients. You grew and you attracted people that you wouldn't have attracted in 2010.
100%.
And I think that's a real good way to transition to the end of the conversation, is that for anybody that wants to be an advocate, the biggest thing that you have to work on is yourself. And I think you are a testament to the fact that if you continue to invest in yourself and being better and like assessing yourself and looking at, okay, this is the scale of relationships I have now versus it used to be condensed a little more. And now I know how to plug and play and like, utilize people in the right ways, and I can also be there for them in ways I couldn't have been there for them because I wasn't mature enough before. The focus on self-development is always a pivotal part of getting what you want to get done.
Yep.
Always.
100%, bro.
Always.
100%. Facts.
And I think to that point, for those that are watching that live in major cities, Atlanta, Philadelphia, DC, Los Angeles, we talked last time about what it is to be a black male, in particular as a native in the city that you live in, right?
Yep.
Like, that's going to be really important. If you have issues that you want to fight for, you got to first fight to develop yourself.
You must. Yeah, it ain't optional. If you want something to happen, you have to. Because you have to be able, when I was a young dude, old dudes would tell me, change you must or die you will.
That's it.
I mean, you must adapt, and you have to develop skill sets that you probably don't have currently. You know what I'm saying? And sharpen the ones that you do have in order to be able to, make things shake for your people, for people who may not be in a position to do that, and don't fall in love with being the person, though.
One of the first things you and I talked about when we first started really building our relationship, you talked about the finch. I want you to, let's end it on that.
Yeah, so, Darwin's theory of natural selection, he was at the Galapagos Islands. And,
that's it, Galapagos, yeah.
He, watched, just bird watch, nature watch. And so the finch, it was different variations of the finch. They had the beak, they had a different beak size, right? And that's how he came up with the fact that the theory of survival of the fittest. So based on what the food source was, the beak size was different. And those that were able to elongate their beaks was able, say if they, just eating ants that was in the tree, but the ants knew they was trying to hunt them, so they would dig a little deeper in the tree. So if the beak didn't go longer, they'd be able to get the ants that would say, 3 inches deep in the tree, your beak 2 inches, you can't eat, you die. But the finch that was able to elongate his beak and get to the ants, they lived. But when they reproduced, their offspring, right, came out with the beak that was long enough to get the ants.
That's it.
Feel me? So what we're doing every day is really that, trying to elongate our beaks, man. Like you have to. So that Molly, so that Izzy and Sophie, they gonna have what it take to survive. So anybody out there like that's the goal, to be able to develop skill sets, tools, and parts of yourself that will allow you to survive and anything like you. And then when we in the context of DC right now, as a native, too many of us could not and have not been able to do that. You feel me? And my work individually, our work collectively has really been about that. This conversation that we're having, the ones we're going to continue to have, is going to be about trying to provide, insight so that people can elongate their beaks, if you will. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's so that they can survive, bro.
That's it. Well, listen, everybody out there, we appreciate you guys watching us as we continue to bring these conversations your way. We thank you guys for subscribing, leaving comments, sharing the Instagram posts that we put up.
Real
clips from the episodes that we're doing, and we're gonna continue to bring these sort of conversations to your phone, to your laptops, to your dinner tables, and more. Right. So thank y'all for always supporting Heart of the City.
Heart of the City, man. Peace and love.
Peace.